Greetings, everyone. Great to be with you again. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for everything you're doing by way of service, growing, and learning. Our presentation today is entitled Disarmed by Wisdom. In making breakthroughs in living, getting unstuck, releasing anxiety, letting go of who we are not, we need to unlearn and learn anew. Our full growing up and maturation involves the expansive movement from belief to knowledge to wisdom. As we become more receptive to the master within, it will increasingly assist us in this process. If the outer self is overprotective, overbearing, oblivious, or resistant to lessons, wisdom will disarm it and transform us. Now, let me share with you certain views from England. You'll see before you some images of the great estate of Chatsworth. There was recently a decade-long restoration there. It brought these centuries-old grounds into the 21st century. And past Grand Master Raymond Andrea from England used to indicate to always be on the lookout for truth, whatever form it takes. Always to be vigilant. There's a tremendous range of knowledge and wisdom. Here we're seeing a great estate, a wonderful work of architecture. But we could equally take a tour in your neighborhood and point out certain ways that mysticism and Rosicrucian laws of principles are at work, or vestiges back of them. And always being on the lookout, part of it is you can see what is at the very top of this great Chatsworth house. We see a sculpture here. Now that's quite intriguing. The uppermost work there is suggestive that it's the reigning figure or symbol for the entire estate. We see the various classicizing styles in the architecture, the great columns, the pediment, the great urns along the side, beautiful grounds. But let's zoom in on this upper part and think of our topic of disarmed by wisdom. You can see as part of the restoration on the left, that statue got quite discolored over time compared to its original estate. But you can see with the restoration work, it's coming back to its closer to its original form. And who do we have before us here, presiding over this great estate and country home? It's none other than Minerva, the Roman goddess of wisdom, also known as Athena in the Greek tradition. It's quite striking, too, that traditional imperator, leader of the Rosicrucians, Sir Francis Bacon, was known to have a special relationship in terms of the symbolism of Athena Pallas. She was known as the spear shaker because often she, as part of her iconography, she would carry a spear and shake it at those who are being, as a warning to those who are being unrighteous in justice. Just as the past imperators of Francis Bacon, in a traditional sense, saw her as a great muse, what the Rosicrucians would refer to, and he's alluding to in a veiled way, the inner self, the master within, that we'll be experiencing during our presentation, especially when we ascend to the heights of the celestial sanctum. So it behooves us to always be on the lookout, high and low, for the deeper meaning and understanding throughout life. In that regard, I want to take you inside Chatsworth House. And you'll see on the left a painting before it was cleaned, and then after it was cleaned in the recent restoration, you see a tremendous transformation. Quite poignantly here, we again have something of very profound meaning to us as mystics always on the lookout for the deeper understanding in life. throughout the exterior of Chatsworth House and its interior, in a way, it's like a great work of art, a great art gallery, a museum. I'm zooming on a particular things, but we could actually go quite extensively in them. You'll see before you now the before and after of the painter Maria Causeway's painting of Georgina, the Duchess of Devonshire, who lived in the great Chatsworth house. Intriguingly, Maria Causeway was 22 years of age when she did this painting. And Georgina, the Duchess, was 25, and they had a very beautiful relationship, sharing their arts and sciences and their inspiration. They're both inspiring figures. And you'll notice as we come in closer at the painting and it's restored, coming back closer to the original, the various remarkable qualities in the symbolism. In a way, we see before us another disarming by wisdom. The wisdom of, of Cynthia. I know many of you have studied the epic and spiritual poem of the English language by Edmund Spenser, The Fairy Queen. This is a depiction of Cynthia from The Fairy Queen, but it's also used as a model, or as Georgina the Duchess, as Cynthia. But then, who is Cynthia? Well, we know from ancient times that these Greek and Roman goddesses also had a deeper esoteric meaning that were taken up over the centuries, including during the Renaissance by figures like Marsilio Ficino and others. Cynthia was identified with the Greek goddess Artemis, who is said to be born on Mount Cynthus on Delos, but also Selene, the Greek personification of the moon. And we'll notice in the iconography and symbolism, there's the moon element here. Also, that the figure in the Roman tradition, the Greek gods and goddesses, as Diana the huntress. And in this way, we see that Causeway is, in a way, reimagined Georgina the Duchess as Cynthia, goddess of the moon, and also as Diana. And we see they're descending, because we know from Edmund Spenser's Fairy Queen epic poem that Cynthia emerges from the clouds, illuminating the world. In this way, this portrayal has great, rich symbolism. It has what our historians have mentioned more recently, including when this work was recently on display at the Tate Gallery before coming back to its home resting place, is that it's a work by a woman of a woman. And so is what is technically known as the female gaze is given to us of a woman, not a man or male artist depicting a woman. And that was quite advanced for this time period, because the Duchess of Devonshire was incarnated from 1757 to 1806. And we know that both these women had a great interest in the arts and the sciences. The Duchess even climbed up Mount Vesuvius to see its great activities. We see here that Cynthia, but also the Georgina, represents light and darkness, just as when we realize wisdom. Also, the image reflects not only the beauty of the goddess and of the Duchess, but also the Duchess as a charismatic and powerful woman of her time. She was a political influencer. She was a confidant, we know, of key figures, and a trendsetter, and indeed a beloved figure of London's aristocracy. And that way she was able to learn and grow much over her half century of life. And it's intriguing that as we zoom in on this work, that her son said that of all the depictions of her mother, the Duchess, this was the one that was the most lifelike. But you get a sense of a person who's very much alive, very vitalized by the divine within, very much having the presence of wisdom and of Cynthia. And again, like the statue of Minerva, the goddess of wisdom. We're again disarmed by wisdom, by the Duchess and by the goddess. In this way, we're going to make our ascent, similar as you see before us, Georgina made her ascent in all various arts and sciences, inspired others. But also Cynthia, as their various forms, including Diana the Huntress, partook of the heavens and was in interchange between the microcosm and the macrocosm. Let us have a period of meditation now, having been disarmed by wisdom and having embraced it. Let us enter much more deeply as we surrender or disarm ourselves to attune with the cosmic. Special term the Rosicrucians use to mean the cosmos, the system and order of the universe within us and without us as a unity, but also all natural and spiritual laws. And as we attune with the cosmic, we come into wisdom. I invite you to get comfortable in your seat if you're lying down in your bed or however you're situated. Main thing is if you can breathe in an unencumbered way. And let's just enjoy our time together, but also view this as a mini retreat during the day to get recharged and rested. You can use this as a time to be soothed if we've been roughed up today, or if we've been uplifted, inspired today, we'll just keep on that track as well. Either way, I invite you to concentrate on your breath and be in the present. This is the astonishing view of the Duchess and the goddess, disarmed us by wisdom and took us into the present. Let us follow our breath, the great incoming and outgoing, from the opening of this incarnation to its close. The mastery of the breath is part of the mastery of life. And we know that everything manifests in vibrations, spoken of in our Rosicrucian's weekly lessons, as the cosmic keyboard, the successive octave after octave, doubling the vibrations with each octave. Great correspondence in all vibration and phenomena. Our incoming and outgoing breath is like standing by a very calming lakeshore with the waves lapping in. The wave coming in like our incoming breath. The wave subsiding by the shoreline as it hits their outgoing breath. I invite you to breathe a little deeper than usual if it's comfortable for you. And also, if it's comfortable for you, to extend your exhalation longer than your inhalation. Automatically and immediately experience the relaxation response. The stimulating of the great vagus nerve that works with the polarity, the autonomic nervous system that we learn about so much through our Rosicrucian weekly lessons and exercises. Experience the polarity of the law of duality manifesting as a sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system to help us with action, but also contemplation, reflection, and meditation. We work with these two polarities to balance our lives. As with our extended exhalation, we move towards that autonomic balance. Indeed, we can make it as a habit in our life if we wish to make sure that our breathing is not shallow, but generally deeper and extended exhalation. Draw us into calmness, tranquility, imperturbability, equipoise, equanimity. All part of the mastery of life. Our bodies can heal well when they're calm, when we're calm. In fact, calmness is crucial to healing, both properly and with rapidity. Also, this calmness is crucial that we can think accurately and precisely. particularly when we're starting to feel overwhelmed or anxious. Let's just keep coming back to the discipline of the breath, whether we're in a formal period of meditation or not. This way, as we grow and learn and mature, the seeming impossible starts to become possible. Our life becomes an act of meditation and contemplation for the healing of ourselves and all we come in contact with. Right? The great alchemical elixir, applying the law of transmutation. Soon we'll apply instructions for the key Rosicrucian instructional booklet on meditation entitled Liber 777. Let's just continue to enjoy the gentle rhythm of the breath. With the incoming of the breath, you may wish to spiritualize the action even further by sensing the increasing presence of the divine within, the master within, our true nature and guide in life. Each incoming breath, you may wish to sense yourself like a sponge, soaking up the presence of the divine within, our outer self being imbued with it. An enriching and ennobling act, our birthright, and truly who we are. Now to begin our ascent to the heights of the celestial sanctum, just as we ascended to the heights of Chatsworth House, to see the goddess of wisdom there. I invite you now to apply with me the law of purification with the following prayer and invocation. May the divine essence of the cosmic infuse my being and cleanse me of all impurities of mind and body, that I may enter the celestial sanctum and attune in pureness and in worthiness. So mote it be. Now I invite you now to rise with me, using our imaginative faculties, our psychic capacity, and our overall spiritual nature to sense ourselves rising up from wherever we're situated, up over the building, home or office, or otherwise, up over our neighborhood and local geographic area, be it rural or a village or town or city. And let us keep rising and enjoying the exhilaration of ascent, using great inner spiritual force now to go faster and faster, higher and higher. Up over our county now, see the weather systems below, the water systems, the landforms. As we rise up now even over our province or state, taking in our entire great nation or country. And now, our continent and even the hemisphere of the earth where we dwell. And now the entirety of the earth, like a beautiful blue jewel. We rise higher and higher, looking upward and sensing the presence of our local star, the sun, the great elliptical orbits of the planets. As we pass higher and higher out from the far reaches of our solar system, going way beyond the speed of light as we transcend space and time now. As we go deeper and deeper into space, we'll go deeper and deeper into ourselves. As we rise higher and higher into the universe, by the law of correspondence, we'll go deeper and deeper within ourselves. The macrocosm mirroring the microcosm, not only as a philosophical, theoretical point, but as an astonishing lived experience now, as we rise higher and higher, exhilarated by the joy and the beauty of the harmony of the spheres, the great vibrations and music of the universe, past myriad quasars and pulsars and other stellar phenomena, sensing the great arm of the Milky Way galaxy where we dwell as we pass out in that galaxy and see its great spiraling arms rotating about its center. We continue to rise higher and higher past other stars and nebula and the cosmic web connecting the stars and other galaxies, enjoying the beauty and wonder and awe of it all, disarming us into wisdom. Continue to rise faster and faster, higher and higher, knowing our birthright as celestial beings. Temporarily dwelling on the temple of the earth to learn, to grow, to master. So we rise higher and higher. Start to sense the entire universe rotating about a great cosmic axis spoken of since ancient times. And when you sense its presence in this stupendous rotational action and sense the great harmony and exemplification of laws, nature, let us zoom in on the midpoint of that great cosmic axis and slow up when we reach it and dwell there in stillness and awe. The great temple, the divine all about us, the macrocosm, the cosmos. Now let us apply further instructions of the booklet Liber 777 by visualizing or mentally creating our personal sacred space, our celestial sanctum. May be an inspiring place in nature, back on earth, such as Sacred Grove, or by an ocean side, suggesting the vast expanse of the water and the vastness within us, or a high point on a mountain, suggesting a vast view and the vast view that we have within us through the master within and conveyances of wisdom. Or maybe an inspiring temple on earth, depicting all natural and spiritual laws inside, or as you wish to depict it. You may wish to depict incense rising, again, symbolizing law of transmutation. We purified and spiritualized our natures to rise to this high point of consciousness. A great meeting of minds. You may indeed wish to picture in your celestial sanctum others on this conference call with us. The Grand Lodge and Supreme Grand Lodge officers of the Rosicrucian or Amor conducting a sacred ritual and convocation. The visible and invisible masters with us. Feel in the sights and sounds, the impressions, make it real, make it vital. Feel the exhilaration of being this very special place we can always return to be recharged, rejuvenated, formed by wisdom. And when you're ready, you can release your mental creation of your personal celestial sanctum by saying, if it pleases the cosmic, it is done. So mote it be. And then let us apply the law of silence and the law of cosmic attunement to dwell in receptivity and surrender to the divine within. Disarmed once again by wisdom. as we continue to dwell at the heights of the celestial sanctum, the center of the cosmos, the center of our being. I invite you to undertake further another spiritual operation of the work and worship of the Rosicrucian Order Amok. Let us join with the Silent Council, in conjunction with the Council of Solace, Grand Lodge of the Rosicrucian Order Amok, by radiating love and well-being to all those who petition the Grand Lodge of the Rosicrucian Order for guidance and healing. And let us radiate love and well-being to all those who petition the affiliate bodies of the Rosicrucian Order Amok for guidance and healing. And let us radiate love and well-being to all those you know who are in need of guidance and healing. And finally, let us radiate love and well-being to all sentient beings throughout the cosmos who are in need of guidance and healing. Let the love and well-being radiate out from you like a great searchlight going out throughout the cosmos, flowing with great rapidity, just like great rapidity we experienced in rising to the heights of the celestial sanctum. Like a great floodlight sending out love and well-being. To do this, we'll apply law of service, law of humility, and the law of cosmic attunement. At a certain point, I think you may find the radiations of love and well-being will speed up, and you know you're reaching those in need. At a certain point, too, I think you'll find you no longer need to make any conscious effort. You just let the divine within continue this further spiritual operation. And when that happens, just dwell in receptivity. Soon we'll formally close this period of sending metaphysical aid, but we'll continue to remain at the heights of the celestial sanctum and meditate longer. Assured that these radiations of love and well-being will continue from the depths of our being as a way of life on the mystical path and part of our mission in life. I invite you to say with me now, if it pleases the cosmic, it is done. So mote it be. Now let us continue to surrender to the divine within, the master within. In the celestial sanctum now. As the radiations of love and well-being reach throughout the cosmos, you may now let your mind expand to fill the cosmos. To assume the cosmic mind. Experience as the cosmic mind experiences. To be the cosmic mind. Now. Soon we'll begin our descent from the heights of the celestial sanctum. Before we do so, I invite us to invoke the law of gratitude, which intensifies the application of the law of cosmic attunement. By radiating our thanks to all those who have taught us well, and radiating and expressing our thanks to all those who have loved us well. Expressing our thanks and radiating and to all those who've sacrificed will on our behalf. I invite you to join me in descending from the heights of the celestial sanctum with tremendous speed and rapidity, faster than the speed of light, past myriad stars and stellar phenomena, quasars, the pulsars, the nebula, galaxies, enjoying the great harmony of the spheres, the wondrous vibrational and music-like action, the entire cosmos. Sensing the universal intelligence back of the cosmos, the cosmic. As we pass galaxy after galaxy, stars after stars, and see in the distance the great spiraling arms of our galaxy, our home, the Milky Way galaxy. As we come to it and plunge into the great arm where we dwell, past various stellar phenomena like quasars and the pulsars, but also planets and rogue planets and asteroids and comets. The wonder and beauty of it all. See in the distance the beautiful elliptical orbits of the planets of our solar system. The great fiery ball of the sun, our local star, the temple of the earth, our home. So we come back to the hemisphere where we left off, the continent, great nation, or country, province or state, our county, our geographic area or village or town or city, our neighborhood, and invite you again, say another prayer and invocation with me as follows. May the God of my heart sanctify this attunement of self with the celestial sanctum. So mote it be. And let us continue to descend on our home or office building, where else we are situated. Back in the room where we left off, feeling the holy temple of the body, feeling recharged, re-energized, remade, feeling the cosmic consciousness imbued throughout all our cells, through all our expressions of consciousness, although more ready to fulfill our mission in life and discharge our duties in the work and worship of the Rosicrucian order now and always. And you may now wish to stretch, arching your back and moving your fingers, stretching your legs, moving your toes, however you wish. And we'll continue our presentation. Thank you, everyone. We're resuming our presentation. We'll say that the Rosicrucian order encourages each of us to discover the wisdom and compassion, strength and peace that is always there within us, always resides within us. That's part of the value of doing the meditation session. Feel that all the more. Not only as a concept, but also as a lived experience. Now, there's various ways to look upon wisdom. It can be viewed as a compassionate application of knowledge, or the prudent application of knowledge. It can be viewed as a culmination of from belief about things, firsthand knowledge of things, demonstrated knowledge, to wisdom in terms of a whole, having knowledge in a whole or wholesome sense, where it's ethical and moral and virtuous application. Indeed, in that way, wisdom can be viewed as cultivating the ability to discern the effects of applied knowledge, as spoken of by Billitavar, past Imperator Ralph and Lewis in the book Whisperings of Self. I'll give you resources on towards the end of this presentation. Also, from that Whisperings of Self is mentioned, if one pursues the knowledge that we love, we make love of knowledge our real end. One with such an end in view never intentionally misuses the power of their knowledge or our knowledge. It is the prudent use of knowledge which constitutes wisdom. Indeed, one of the ways that we come into knowledge, and one that is of central importance to mystics, can be referred to as cosmic revelation. What we experience when we ascend to the heights of celestial sanctum, and then have momentum of now, especially as we meditate daily and do the Rosicrucian exercises and from our weekly lessons. That in that cosmic revelation, there's an attunement with the universal mind and with the divine consciousness, and gradually revealed to us greater and greater wisdom that is timeless and it deals with the past, present, and the future. And this wisdom guides, instructs, and inspires us and leads us on. In this way, when the outer self becomes discouraged or vexed or overwhelmed, there's always the inner self, and we draw back on our experiences of the inner self and the wisdom from it. And then it's like drinking from the elixir once again. This is a wonderful foundation to have the master within and wisdom in our life. Now, in this regard too, that in this contact with wisdom and the inner self, we feel our deepest foundation. Already within us, working with the outer self, is the capacity to solve and resolve every situation. And you can see our lives in a way as a conquest, not with the orders, a knight's quest for the Holy Grail through our tradition. But the wisdom in the self within challenges ignorance and superstition and there are various earthly conditions around them to transmute them, I spoke of earlier. One of the important things about this is that when we sensitize ourselves through meditation, meditation, as we did, we become more sensitive to the actions of the holy temple, our body, but also of our whole nature. And part of that is we become more receptive to the conscience, the still small voice within. We hearken to it. And we can be disarmed by its wisdom in a good way. Now we can think that, well, being disarmed does not sound like we're becoming weaker. In the sense that we're using it here and following the divine within, following wisdom, we're actually becoming much stronger. The outer self is working as a unity with the inner self. They mutually strengthen, reinforce each other in living. Now, part of this is what we've spoken at other times in our teleconference about the noetic quality of illumination and the mystical experience. We know when we know that we know, and we can analyze experience. It'll only grow in depth and meaning to us. That's because the conveyance has been from the supreme or higher intelligence. It's a knowledge or wisdom that far surpasses what can be conveyed through word or by earthly means. Interest in this way, speaking about being disarmed and being receptive and always vigilant, is the conveyance of the divine within. Is that we have various things in our culture, various spiritual traditions you're familiar with are along these lines. For example, from Proverbs 15, there's the expression, a soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger. Indeed, not only can we be disarmed by wisdom, but we can assist others to be disarmed by wisdom. For example, if we follow the guidance of the master within, day by day, growing in the lessons of understanding of the Rosicrucian teachings, we mature, we grow up, which is the central purpose of mysticism. Then we can be calm, we can be humble, we can see others' perspectives much more easily. We can show sincere respect and have genuine interest in the welfare of another person. And that includes when they're very angry at us, where they're feeling disturbed. We can note where there is agreement and a common goal, which can often disarm and de-escalate a tense situation through wisdom. This is a tall order to ask for outer self. But I think if you find when you can remain calm, you can draw on that meditative experience we had earlier, the strength will come forward, and there can be a meeting of two inner selves. For every human being is part of the one soul, and we can contact on that level. It is disarming in a good way for ourselves and the others, whatever rashful or harsh condition or overwhelming condition we may find ourselves in. Even the brain will work with us, and our nervous system will work with us in that regard. Indeed, what I've just described requires a lot of maturity. And what is in more recent years in psychology ultimately derives its root from the psyche, the mind, and the soul, is what's called emotional intelligence. Only having the intellectual intelligence, the reasoning intelligence, the emotional intelligence. That's that type of wholeness that we come into the Rosicrucian teachings. And that way, the outer self is working with the wisdom and strength of the inner self. It appears like a duality, but ultimately, in that wisdom, it's a unity. In this regard, I'll mention a few occasions where I think there's remarkable experiences being disarmed by wisdom that you may wish to think about, or one was surprised by wisdom, or one was felt a great shift of reframing, use a more modern psychological term. I think of, for example, one of the renowned athletes and sports moments in Canadian history associated with Elizabeth Manley of Canada. When she was at a practice at the Winter Olympics in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, in 1988. Shortly before going to that Olympics in Calgary, she'd been having some very difficult challenges with mental health and her well-being. She was an elite athlete physically, yes, but there was a great challenges of her mind. And Rosicrucians appreciate deeply the importance of the wholeness in our whole nature, our psychic nature, our mental nature, our emotional nature, our physical nature, and the overarching spiritual nature. And there had been a interview and reporter. It was a reporter. It also gave a story on her in the local city newspaper where she lived in Canada. And he was quite disparaging of her, quite critical of her, that she really wasn't ready, because she had been frank with her mental challenges she had, but that was actually a show of strength. But the reporter wrote it up and said, this person isn't ready to be an athlete. We're representing Canada at the Olympics. Elizabeth interpreted this understandably as a kick in the head, and it really threw her for a tailspin. And as she went to the Olympics, she was feeling not herself, and not surprisingly, her immune system went down and she felt quite ill. And at the practice the day before, the short program, women singles figure skating, She and her coach were trying to decide, was she ready to skate? Could she do it? Was she feeling well enough, both in mind and physically? But something remarkable happened during her practice. The men's Canadian Olympic team, with their coach, came and watched her practice. And she didn't know why. But after she finished practicing and the men's hockey team were leaving, she spoke briefly with the coach of the hockey team. And she said, thank you very much for coming to see me. My name's Elizabeth. And he says, I know who you are. I know who you are. The reason I brought my team here was that they weren't practicing very well. And I wanted to see a true champion. I wanted them to be inspired by you. And then immediately she was completely disarmed. She had the presence of a great upliftment within her. In Rosicrucian's terms, we call it the inner self had declared itself. She let down her defenses for a moment, feeling so ill and so forth, and allowed that healing to take place. And as she walked away, her coach came up to her and saw that she'd been transformed, transmuted. He said, what happened? She said, I'll tell you later, but I'm going to skate tomorrow. And she skated the next day. She came and in the short program, and then shortly after that, another day, the long program, she got a silver medal. But there was that pivot of experience. You see, the coach of the other team, the reporter for that local newspaper, they all played their role in the cosmic scheme. Each would need to compensate for their actions. For the coach, it'd be a great immediate benefit. For the reporter, he in effect, without knowing it, and unwittingly applied the law of purification in regard, assisted Elizabeth in that regard. The most intense form of the law of purification is the law of crucifixion, not to be feared, whereas it comes the law of rebirth. And he would also have to compensate in his own way by his misguided actions, and yet he played his part in the cosmic scheme. Now, Elizabeth said ever after that, yes, I got the silver medal, but and truly, I found within myself, I got the gold medal in life. So I know I'm going to convey now in coaching others how to have gold medals in life. And one could say, from an alchemical Rosicrucian term, we know gold is that refined nature from the lead into the gold. Each of us, as we draw on the master within, are disarmed by wisdom, like Elizabeth was. We come in, we have our own gold medal moments. We have our own experience of the gold, the philosopher's stone, and it can increasingly enter into that. You know, another thing that makes me think of this is often people think that you're going to get wisdom from elders. Yes, if they've matured themselves well, that can often be the case and be inspired. And cultures traditionally are best based on the wisdom of their elders. But it can also come from anywhere, anytime. You know, there's the expression I think of, for example, from Psalm 8:2 in the Bible, out of the mouth of babes and sucklings hast thou ordained strength because of thine enemies, that thou mightiest still the enemy and the avenger. And similarly, the Master Yeshua in the from Matthew 21:16 says, and said unto him, hearest thou what they say? And Yeshua said unto them, have you never read out of the mouth of babes and sucklings that thou hast perfected praise? Now, the Rosicrucian order is not a religion, but we see in sacred texts and all things the deeper spiritual meanings for living in life, and see a different symbolic, non-literal interpretation increasingly. It requires wisdom to discern. We have this in our Rosicrucian tradition with the Cologne, is a young feminine figure who serves in the temples of certain Rosicrucians affiliated bodies. And it's a traditional saying in the Rosicrucian order, when the Cologne speaks, all shall be silent. That's an old law of our temples. For from the mouth of a child comes wisdom, and from the bosom of conscience comes truth. So you see again, working both exoterically, outwardly, and inwardly, esoterically, in these understandings. In a similar way, the Cologne can disarm us by her wisdom. And similarly, in our contacts with the innocence of a child, have back of it the expression of the inner self, the divine within, as the child maintains that attunement, which often we have to recover through our Rosicrucian laws and meditation. And often encounters with children can be disarming, but in a good way. We at that time can re-experience the divine wisdom through our contact with children. And we have that childlike innocence that remains within us, but at the same time, the deep maturity and knowledge of the Rosicrucian knight. In a similar way, it reminds me of a Rosicrucian mentor that I had years ago to help realize important foundations in my life. His father was a minister in a Christian church. And he could see that his daughter was being transformed through the Rosicrucian teachings. And he wouldn't quite know what to make of it. But he sensed something very deep there. And one day he did something that was not normally to be done. The Rosicrucian teachings and her monographs are private to each student. But he got into her lessons and started having a look at them. And he soon realized what he was looking at. And he came to her later that day and he said, "Your Rosicrucian lessons are what I've been looking for all my life." Because he had read in his sacred text that the Master Yeshua had an inner circle of students, and they would meet in the upper room, which is a veiled way of saying a temple. So there he found no matter where we contact the deeper esoteric teachings, if we want them as deeply as we want to have our next breath, we will recontact them, even if it's near the close of our incarnation, as it was for that minister. The Rosicrucian order is waiting. Also reminds me in this regard of a poignant Spanish song that's John of the Cross, one of the great mystics of the Western tradition, heard while he was being held in prison by those within his church that were suspicious of his wisdom. And that Spanish song that he heard poignantly said, translated from Spanish to the effect that I'm dying of love. What shall I do? The refrain was just die. At that point, he was completely disarmed by this popular Spanish song that he has heard in a new way. Somewhat like the Buddha under the Bodhi tree. After struggling and trying, he let go, and the disarmament was able to take place. And they raised up into the divine realization and were fully themselves, one with the one. In this regard, it reminds me again from the Whispering of Self in the book, the Lidvar's Past Imperator, Ralph and Lewis' book. You think of this as the sacred place being the divine temple of the cosmos, being the built temple, but also being the holy temple that we are. The power of a sacred place lies not in its form or tradition alone, but in the higher state of consciousness it can evoke in us. This way is the heart of being prepared to experience wisdom at any time, anywhere, and have that degree of openness. And yes, use the guardedness of the outer self, like the knight, but not overdo it, so that our lives can be guided by the master within. It is our true guide. The outer self can't do that. It is in contact with the finite realm, whereas the inner self is with the infinite realm, where there's infinite love, infinite compassion, and flow into us and heal us, and all we come in contact with.